But if not, I'll also be there next week, which is probably when you'll have a few more questions when you're starting to use it. Now, for the purposes of the training, when you look at my screen on the left-hand side, that's the desktop version, and on the right-hand side, that's the mobile app. For everyone in the room here today, you're probably going to use the desktop version, I would say almost 100% of the time. Okay, so we'll focus on that a little bit more. Okay, now, you guys are used to using Opera, so the colors are going to look very familiar to you. But basically, when you log in with your account here, you will see all these colors, all these symbols, which is basically relating to information that's coming over to Hub from Opera. Okay, so as soon as you make a change in Opera, so essentially check out a guest, it takes about 10 seconds, and that will populate into Hub as a checked out room. Okay, rather than a departure, and Hub going back to the PMS is about 30 seconds. Okay, so pretty instantaneous in terms of integrations. Now, when you log in, yes, there are lots of colors and lots of symbols that probably mean no sense to you at the moment. But after 2, maybe 3 days of you guys using it, you'll really start to understand it. I already speak fluent Hub, so everything just makes sense to me. But if you need some assistance while you're learning, there's a little question mark on the right-hand side here, okay? And it's going to show you every symbol that you're going to see in Hub. So just in case you can't see that, let me zoom it in a little bit for you. Okay, so where we see 6:15, it's currently inspected status, but it's also an arrival as well as a checkout room for today. Okay, so this is all stuff that housekeeping is seeing, but we're seeing come across in real time from the PMS, like we said before. Okay, so yeah, a couple days you'll get used to it, but there's always this handy piece there. Now, when we're going live next week, I imagine for the most part for yourselves in front office, mostly what you're going to do is be raising requests as well as what do you call it? Maintenance faults. Yeah. So whereas you're using Sidekick at the moment, you hopefully will not be using Sidekick next week. That's my goal. Yeah.
Okay, everyone will be happy about that. Yeah. I promise you.
Okay, nice. Yeah, bring it all together. Okay. So when we're in the building, there's a few options. We can scroll through, we can find our room, find our location, whether it be a public space or a guest room, or we can search by guest name or room number. So, we could search for 709 in here, and it's going to drill that down. We could search for, let's see, oh, there is an Edward in the room here. Let's see, Gilding. Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Good guess.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I try. It's a pretty common name, actually. So when you find your room that you need to raise a fault or whatever against, you click on it, and what you see is at the top, we see our guest details, okay, and their stay dates. Then in the middle, we see what we call our action items, or what I call our action items. And then down the bottom, this is what we call our review items, basically. So these aren't applicable as much to us as GSAs, more so for, housekeeping manager, maybe Tess, maybe the DM, something like that need to research. What we're mostly going to be using is these middle ones. Okay, so when we're reporting a fault, okay, so fault is something for maintenance, okay, so just make that connection. Fault equals maintenance, request equals housekeeping, in-room dining, something like that, some other role in the hotel, okay? So if we were to raise a new fault, okay, so let's say this guest had an issue, maybe something common in your hotel, maybe TV issues. Is that common? Yeah, maybe not.
Yeah, probably.
Dripping.
Yeah, drippings, leakings.
Leaking?
Air conditionings.
Okay, there you go. So in our fault title, we're going to start to type what the issue is, right? Now, there are going to be some options display, okay? If it makes sense, yeah, we're going to choose it. If it doesn't make sense, we can just click out, and it's going to allow us to raise that fault based off of what we're determining is the issue, okay? So you don't have to be specific, just as best as you can. Now, with us being on front desk, we're going to give the best description possible about the issue. So we could say a guest reported that the shower was dripping all night. quite loudly. As an example, will return in 2 hours as an example. So maybe, the guest is going out for a period of time. Always great to pop it on there for maintenance to see. The reason why we're going to give the best description possible is because likely for us on front desk, we're not going to have a photo to attach. Okay, whereas housekeeping will be attaching photos for maintenance. So they know what light globe they need to take with them or what area needs painting in the room, stuff like that. Okay. We then go down here, which is our priorities, which is the next stage. So it will default to normal for us. So normal, I say it's nice that it gets looked at some stage today. Okay, so it wouldn't be this case. Urgent, usually within about 1 to 2 hours, it's nice if someone's going to look at it. So it could be for an arrival room, a rush room, something like that is always a good example. When we click on this person, okay, guest is in the hotel. Okay, so it means the guest is waiting for maintenance in the room. Okay, whereas if we click it one more time, guest has left the hotel, which would be in this case, the guest is coming back in 2 hours. Okay, so it prioritizes in maintenance list based off of this. So guest in the hotel is going to be at the top, then guest has left the hotel, urgent, and our normal stuff. Okay, so normal is traditionally stuff raised by the housekeeping department when they're cleaning rooms. Okay, when we toggle on either one of these people, okay, we're presented with this area down here. Okay, so it's going to populate the guest details. So maintenance, when they go to the room, they can personalize the service. They could be like, oh, Mr. Edward, it's Brendan from maintenance. I'm here to fix your leaking tap. Okay, they have that guest information then right on the fault for them. Okay, but what sometimes happens as well is when we're raising a fault or a guest is reporting a fault, usually they're complaining about something as well, right? That happens at your hotel?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Very often.
Yeah, brilliant. So when we have that person enabled, you'll see this option down the bottom here, which says create related complaint. So where, maybe at the moment you're raising the fault and then you're also putting something in the duty log to say this is this issue that we need to follow up with. Okay. If we toggle this on here, okay, it's going to ask us to populate what our complaint is or what our complaint issue is. So guest was very unhappy as the dripping kept waking them up. Could not sleep. Okay, so maybe that's the complaint. So we've got our fault details and then we've got our complaint. Okay, so when we click save, we've done those two items. We've raised our guest complaint as well as raising our maintenance fault, but we've also linked them. Okay, so it's going to make the duty manager or your role in following up a little bit easier. Okay, so when we jump into look at our guest experience, okay, this is where we see our pending faults. Our pending complaints or compliments, suggestions. So when we click on the first one, which we just raised, okay, we can see it's still in pending status. There's no updates been made, okay? But then this here looks like a hyperlink, right? Okay, so if I click on that, okay, it's going to take me directly to that fault that was raised, okay? So I can already know that it's been linked to a fault. There's a fault issue related. Okay. If I was, say, maintenance and I accepted this task, okay, maybe say went and replaced washer, dripping is no more. Okay. And then closed it out as a maintenance person. When I go back into our guest experience area, so our complaints area, we can see it's now in progress. And when I click, what I see is the details that were updated on that fault have also updated on my guest complaint. Okay, so it means I don't need to be calling Trev or calling any other the maintenance guys to find out what's happening, what's going on. It's all populating on my complaint under the internal monitoring section here. Okay, so then as a duty manager, if the guest was following up with me, I'm like, oh yeah, I see that they've fixed it. So spoke with guest on return, apologized, but advised issue has been fixed. Okay. No other internal monitoring. We've not done anything, but maybe we're going to give them a FOC drink voucher. perhaps, okay, which is worth about $10, okay? And then I can close off my complaint as well. So as the DM, you know, I've followed up with the guest, no more follow-up required. So when I jump in, I can complete this, okay? And then I can adjust, you know, what it's relating to specifically here, okay? So maybe it's my room bathroom status. Was the guest happy with my solution, or was he, oh no, one moment, it's frozen on me. That's a bit annoying.
We love that. While it's frozen on you, I'll talk.
Yeah.
So just to note, guys, those prices on the compensation are changeable. I have just inputted the regular amount in there, but like say, for example, you give someone 2 drink vouchers, you know that's double, so it's 20. If you give them 3, it's 30, so on and so forth. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but it is helpful. Additionally, down the bottom with your guest experience tags, I've kept it quite simple because I really just want to hone in on the regular issues that we are having. And keep the data really clean. But you'll notice that there are tags in there for maintenance, front office, food and beverage, and housekeeping. Preferably, and C&E as well, sorry. Preferably, you always need to tag a department. Always. We should know that it's always attached to some department of the hotel. Obviously, if it's completely irrelevant, don't just tag it as a random department, but as a best practice, you should be putting it under front office, food, beverage, housekeeping, whatever it relates to, and then your additional tags as well if there's one that relates to it more. So if it was, you know, parking, then it would be front office parking, so on and so forth.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, and so to that point as well, compensation, yeah, they are default, but you can adjust it. But you know, maybe let's say, for example, we had 2 different types, so maybe we also gave them FOC parking. It's gonna add up that as well automatically based on those defaults. But you know, obviously you can change that yourself. And then yeah, when we go to close it out, guest final status, we've got satisfied, unsatisfied, not possible to contact with guest. So most of the time, hopefully it'll be satisfied. But you know, let's be honest, if they're not satisfied, it's always good to have that marked because you know maybe Tess can additionally follow up as well before the guest departs prior to you know they're gone. We can never get in contact with them again. Okay. So when we go update status, that closes out our complaint. Okay, and you'll see an update of this come through every morning at 7 a.m. So,
and just to stress to you guys as well, this does replace the duty log. The duty log will be no more, and we will all be expected to actively be using this platform to track our guest experience.
Yeah, I'll be making sure of it next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
In addition to that, though, so where we looked at raising a fault, we looked at how we can create a fault with the guest complaint at the same time. But you know, not all complaints come from maintenance faults, right? So that's what this new guest incident area is for. So when you click on this area against a room, can also be a public space. So let's do it against a public space to show you something different. Okay. So if I was to raise it against maybe the reception area. Let's do reception. Okay. A new guest incident. Okay. So when I come into a public space, it's going to ask me if it's an internal or external guest. Okay. If it's internal, I can just populate the room number. So maybe it's 709. It's going to populate the guest details for me already. Okay. But this is not just for complaints either, right? It's for compliments and suggestions as well. So up the top where we see type, okay, we can populate that suggestion. You know, we can populate that compliment. Okay, doesn't always have to be negative stuff, right? It's always good to log the positives. Okay, so we might say guest wanted to give appreciation to staff as they have been helpful and gone above and beyond. During their stay. Okay. Just to give you an example. Okay. So then, you know, maybe it's just going to be a front office thing and we can save. When we're raising a compliment, it's going to say, hey, it's a compliment. There's probably no follow-up required. Do you just want to close it straight away? Yeah, most of the time you probably would. Okay. So your ability to log positive things. So if it's from a restaurant, you're like, oh, you know, this is the best buffet breakfast I've ever had. You know, you guys are doing a fantastic job. You know, maybe the housekeeping team, they're going to log it if they came across a guest on the corridor and like, oh, you know, your housekeepers, they're doing fantastic, you know. So it's designed to grab all that information for you. Okay.
So one example I can see you guys using this tool a lot in is when you have a happy guest on departure that you feel like would leave a good review for the hotel. If you raise a compliment and mention that, I then go through and I will be emailing all those people asking them to review. So that's something we're already doing with the duty managers, but now you guys can really help me on that trail and we can get those emails out to as many people as we can.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Next option we've got is our requests. Okay, so our other action item here. So when we jump into a new request, yes, it is a very specific list that we have to choose from. Okay, because these are designed to go to a specific role within the hotel. So you can scroll through. It's going to take a few days for you to understand what there is. Now, you know, let's say, for example, you know, maybe you need some cutlery delivered to a room. Okay, does that happen a little bit? You know, some cutlery requests. Yep. Okay. So if we started to type cutlery, oh damn, there's actually one there. Okay. How good of me. But let's say it was a water glass. Oh, I can't find a water glass. Okay. I just then challenge you to think about who or what department's going to be running this usually. Okay. So would that be an IRD, in-room dining attendant? Or would that be a house person? So you can search for house. Oh, there's a house person task. Okay, so there is a generic task for each role that's assigned if you can't find anything. Okay, and it's designed so you can always raise stuff, but make it accountable. Okay, so I'm going to do an IRD task as an example and maybe say, please send 2 champagne glasses. Okay, our tasks, when we're raising them from the building view here, will always default to a guest request because usually you're raising stuff because a guest is requesting it with you. Okay. If that wasn't the case, you can toggle it off, but most of the time it's going to be a guest request because why else would you be raising it? Okay. Most other things like, you know, rollaway beds is probably going to come from traces. Okay. So we can click save. Okay, and that's going to go to the user's role. So on my mobile device, all being well and good, we should see a task pop up here now. Yep, there we go, 717. We see that task. Okay. The positives of having that person raised, okay, it prioritizes it. Same for housekeeping as it did maintenance. But if these things aren't being picked up in a timely manner, the duty managers are going to know about it. They'll get an escalation. Okay, so if for some reason, you know, maintenance are only there till 5 o'clock, as an example, you raised a fault at 5 o'clock, 20 minutes later, no one's picked it up, the duty manager can then go and, you know, talk with the guest, see if they can fix it or, you know, remove the guest or whatever that is. Okay, so always important, yeah, if the guest is asking for something, always have it as that guest request. Okay. Now, the next thing to quickly cover off is your queue rooms. So how you put rooms on queue in Opera. You're probably doing that quite a bit, I imagine. Yeah. Okay. So when you put a room on queue in Opera, great. You've got your information, but you need to come into Hub and place that room on queue as well. Okay, reason being it does the same thing as a guest request. It prioritizes this room for housekeeping. Okay, so it might be the last room the housekeeper was meant to do at the end of the day, for example. It will move to the top of their task list by adding it on queue in Hub. Okay, the way for us to do this is by finding a vacant room. I'll use 707 as example. When you click it, you'll see add guest on queue. Okay, but it's only available for a unoccupied room, okay, or a non-stayover room, I should say. So when we click that, same thing as in Opera, prioritizes it. We see that little green man on there, just in case you can't, I'll zoom in a little bit. There's a little green man, okay, with his luggage, okay, so rush room, okay. So if we needed to check which rooms were on queue, you know, because like, oh, I can't find them or something like that, we can always go to rooms and guests on queue here. Okay, so guests on queue is going to give us the same information it would in Opera. So how long they've been on queue, guest name, arrival, departure dates, when they were placed on queue. Okay, so this one in red, okay, this symbolizes that it's been on queue greater than 30 minutes, whereas white less than 30 minutes. Okay, so more just beneficial to help housekeeping prioritize what they need to prioritize. Okay. Now, it's not going to look as good this week, but next week, you'll love this next screen, okay? So where we had guests on queue, available rooms, okay? What we're going to see in here is a list of this one, all rooms currently being cleaned by a room attendant, okay? And how long is it expected until it goes into clean status, okay? So that's how long the room should take to clean and when the attendant got there. So where this is really going to help you guys to help housekeeping and help yourselves is maybe a guest has arrived, they don't have a room assigned, okay, but you know the room type. You could come into here, look at the room type and be like, oh, hey, this room's actually in progress. So likely this room will be ready before a room that's not been started. So it's not causing any stress on housekeeping because they're already cleaning the room. They don't need to go to it next. Okay. And likely the guest will get into that room earlier than any other room. Okay. Yes, it only gives us an estimate. So we're not giving these times to guests, be like, hey, you can get in the room in 10 minutes. I can see it right here. That's not a good idea because they can take longer. Okay. And then it's still got to go to clean status and, you know, maybe the supervisor goes along, checks it, there's a maintenance issue. So now we're pending on maintenance. Okay. So it's more just an internal guide for yourselves. But once they've finished their room, it goes to pending inspection status, which we would see a list of all the clean rooms here that are not occupied. And then same for inspected. So if there was an issue with Opera, you've always got a backup here that you can look at as well. Okay. Now, the next piece to show you, D&D's Tess, is that duty manager's responsibility end of day to give them a call, follow up, how are you? Are you okay? Are you still there? Kind of thing? Or does that not happen?
No, that does not. I've never done that in my entire career.
Okay. Well,
tell me more.
As an example, anyway, there's this lovely D&D report up here. So available to any housekeeping front office user. Okay. And because housekeeping going to be logging their D&Ds and things like that, it's going to show us every instance of when a D&D was placed on and removed. Okay. So D&D, NSR, all that kind of thing. Okay. And it's going to kind of look a little bit like this. Okay. This one's got a green stay last minute. We'll touch base on in a moment. But if it was D&D turned on, turned off, or a no service required, okay, we're going to see it here as well. Okay, so in some hotels, it's the duty manager's responsibility at the end of the day. If it has been D&D, hey, we're calling. Are you okay? Welfare check, that kind of stuff. Okay. So that's
do a lot
how
of
you can
hotels
see.
do that, Brendan.
Oh yeah. Oh, do they what? Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. No, I've
Yeah.
never even encountered that as like a previous process that's just not happening. That's so strange, but like it makes sense. It makes complete sense. So that might be something we start doing now. Yeah.
glad I could help. Yeah. That was always my fear when I was in hotels. I was gonna get one, but didn't happen. Touch wood. So.
Oh, yes. I think we all fear that. Hey,
Mm.
you haven't had someone fall out of your roof yet, Brendan. So.
Not yet. Yeah. Sounds like some experience there. Yeah. The next option we've got, so I'll show this to you. There's going to be nothing in here today, but there's a departures section for us as GSAs, and where this is going to be beneficial, I'm not going to have any examples, but it's going to show you a list of all the departures for today. But in the last column, it's going to show you if they've had a complaint, how many complaints they had during their stay, is anything pending. Okay, so it's good for you guys to review every morning when you're starting your shift. Hey, is there someone I need to be aware about? Some issues that they've had, and it's interactive as well. So we'll see this next week when we're actually going live, and I encourage you to jump in and have a look, and that's where you'll see it. Okay. The other one which we get quite often is you probably get a lot of phone calls for lost and found. Okay. Do you guys just hand that straight over to housekeeping, or do you manage it yourselves?
I do it.
You do it?
So we're a bit different. Okay, we're a bit different. So housekeeping, they will log the lost property as they find it. But we actually have cube storage underneath our stairs, and we store it by date, and front office is completely responsible. Ori actually does the leisure of calling all guests that have left property behind to ask them if they'd like it back or not. So we discard a lot of property earlier than other hotels would have to store.
That's fantastic. I love that. Okay, well, this process might fall onto you guys then. So housekeeping would be logging the lost and found directly when they're in a room.
Yeah.
Okay. They're probably not going to bring it down till the end of the day, but at least they would be logging it directly in a room. And we can see that under housekeeping and lost and found. Okay. So what we see here, and let me just quickly raise one just to show you an example.
This is the mobile.
Headphones. So housekeeping would take a photo, they would log it. Okay. So then in here in this lost and found section, you know, if they haven't brought it down yet, you'll be able to see the item. Okay. And if my photo attached, which it didn't, we would also be able to query the photo. Okay. So we can see an image of the photo. Okay. So, oh, what kind of shirt was it? That kind of stuff. So from here, if you've got a separate tracker, you can also update, oh, found, oh, we can discard it. Guest called and does not want.
So it's coming now and not 6 months ago.
It would have been nice to have 6 months ago.
Yeah.
So this is in here. It generates a code automatically for us. Okay. But then we can also search by room number. We can search by specific text for any period. Okay. So it defaults to the last month. Okay. Because usually that's when lost property claims happen, within a month. But we can query much further back if need be. Okay. So yeah, that might fit into your operation, might be a bit easier. You can also say, oh, this is popped in box 1, something like that as well. Any information we can populate there, it's going to show who updates it. Okay. Nice. Now, one last quick section for you guys, mostly on front office. Did you want me to show them green estate tests? Yep. Okay. So under housekeeping here.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We've got this green stay option. Okay. So when we look at this, okay, just imagine you can't see anything below this line that's below green estate, because you wouldn't as a receptionist. Okay. You don't have access to mess with housekeeping's allocations, but anything above the line you will see, one of which is green estate. Okay. So what we do for this, we jump in here and we're going to see a list of every room in-house currently. Okay. So needs to be checked in. Okay. But
just
then,
for clarification, team, as well, green stay means go green. Same thing.
Yeah.
Just in case anyone was confused.
Yeah, of course. Sorry. Everyone calls it something different. Yeah. Someone called it green card the other day. So yeah. So yeah, in here, absolutely fantastic. So you'll come in and you'll see a list of every guest in-house at the moment. Okay. You'll see there's some gray areas and you'll see there's some green ticks as well. Okay. So if a guest came down to you and handed over the green card, okay, we would come into Hub here. We would find their room. Okay. Let's just use 103 as an example. Okay. We can't discard a cleaning today because it's too late. So anything last minute, you still have to contact housekeeping for. Okay. But anything prior to you finishing your day, so like, let's say midnight as an example, that's usually a good time. We can come in here and click on the tick, which turns it to a red X. Okay. What this means is we're going to discard the cleaning. Okay. So housekeeping won't see this room to allocate for cleaning, and we'll be able to pull a report on the rooms that have been or are planning to discard. So we can do it any day except for after 5 a.m. in the morning. As well as except for their departure date. So on their departure date, we have to clean the room, right? We don't want to just leave a room inspected status, one guest checks out, another guest checks in. I'd be pretty angry myself. So on the last day or their checkout date, we can't apply it. Okay. But that's how you would do it. You would just come in, mark it to an X.
No more manual mathing green stays in your head, team. Yep. So this will really help you and help housekeeping to track our greener stays much more efficiently. Thanks to Brendan, I've also discovered a way we can track the points and the drinks much, much better through Opera. So stay tuned over the next week before we go live. I will be sharing details on what that's going to look like. But now we actually have proper systems that will track our Go Greens efficiently, make sure points get issued. It'll be a much better process.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so streamlining it a little bit there. Yeah.
Yeah, massively.
Brilliant. Any questions from anyone there at all? I will show you one extra thing, but that's mostly what it's relating to for you guys on front desk, or what you're mostly going to use. So if anyone had any questions, it's a good opportunity.
Pop them in the chat. Seems super interesting. I love that.
Yeah. It is, trust me. Yeah.
Yeah, like, are we excited, guys? I feel like a kid in a candy store.
Yeah. I'm excited. These go live weeks are the most fun weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, you get to spend 4 days with me, Brendan. Time of your life. Like.
Yeah. Usually from 6:30 in the morning all the way through to 6:30 at night. Yeah.
No, it's going to be a great team. Like, it'll really take us to the next level. But look, Brendan will be on site. So, if you don't have questions now, please use him to your advantage. Like, bombard him with any question you can think of. Don't leave them unthought. We just want to make sure that this platform works for all of us. So if you have suggestions, something's not working, you think something could be better, come to me so that we can look and see if we can do it.
Yeah. Most questions are going to come when you start using it. Okay, and that's the most important thing. So on Friday, you will receive a registration email. So register. Don't raise any tasks, but register so you're ready to go for next week. So just quickly before I let you go, since you've got no question, I just wanted to show you guys the F&B module to show you that F&B will also be using this. Okay, and they'll be using it for breakfast, right? So when we jump in here, so the breakfast team would see this, they would come in, first edition, I've logged in for the day, and then I'm going to go to a guest room, maybe 428. 242, okay, even better.
It's a member, just so you can show the...
Yeah. So what we see here, they can search by a surname or they can search by room number, so they're already starting to personalize the service if they're using the surname or the name. What we see is the room number, guest name, the breakfast code that's attached to the reservation. Okay, so that's important if they need that. But as we said, the VIP code, but the member status here specifically. Okay, so D6, which I think is in a Core Plus Diamond. Platinum. Oh, Platinum. So close. Yeah, so close. Yeah, so we see their membership status here. So F&B should hopefully know what that is. They're gonna see this.
They will, don't you worry.
Yeah.
I've made a lovely cheat sheet, which I've shared with you guys as well. So if you look, front office, you should be more familiar with these already. But if you're not, please start familiarizing yourself. It will be great for you to kind of just know these codes off the top of your head.
Yeah. Correct. What they would see then is with credit. So the no post in Opera, I don't know if you guys have a lot of no post rooms, but if that was the case, it would say no credit here. So automatically they know the guest can't charge it back to the room. Okay. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Their stay dates.
That's one of my biggest problems. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So hopefully less calls. Hey, can you open this folio so I can charge and then close it again? Hopefully less of that. The stay dates of the guest, how many people, and then is breakfast included or not? Okay. Where breakfast will benefit a bit more potentially is they can add in notes for the guest stay. So these will stay until the checkout date. So let's say, for example, this is a regular guest, perhaps, likes strong, when I can type, latte. Okay. So they're going to see this over here. Okay. When they check them in, anytime they come back in during the guest stay, they're gonna see that same note. Okay. F&B doing this and checking them in. Okay, if I can find 242.
Can I ask, Brendan?
Of course.
Do we have to actually check them in for the note to save? Or no. Can we put the note? No, so we could just we could go in there and put the note on and just leave it.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
Cool.
Yeah. So
guys, like if you know there's something that a guest loves at breakfast, feel free to go and pop in notes for F&B.
Does not like eggs. Don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we go back,
diabetic.
Yeah, of course, I didn't say that.
Anything.
When we go back, we can see it's still in there. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. What I wanted to show was probably not going to show because it's not breakfast time. But what housekeeping are also going to see in the app for their cleaning is they're going to see a little, when I go to it, they're going to see a little coffee cup. Okay, so this will show for 60 minutes after they're checked into breakfast. Okay, so if housekeeping, it was a busy day, public holiday, no one's leaving early, but housekeeping is starting, and they've got no departure rooms, they can start on the stayover rooms based off of the ones that have been checked into breakfast. Okay. So it should hopefully make up some of that time for, oh, you know, hey, my room's not been made up and it's 2 p.m. You know, some guests don't like that, but typical of hotels nowadays. Okay. As of course, there's a DM in the room. Yeah, it is. Trust me.
Yeah, good punkery. It's probably my most exciting point of this whole system.
Yeah. The only thing to note with them is they won't post to the guest profile on Opera. Okay, but we can export a report, and then reservations could enter that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Just to show, because we've got, you know, at least one DM on the call here. So our dashboards, which are at the top. So when we come in, the main one they're probably going to be interested in is not the maintenance one, because where's the interest in that? Is this thumbs up is the guest experience. So this is why tagging and everything is really important. So what we're going to see in the dashboard, we see our day stats, which not super important, but here we see the guests currently in-house that have either had a complaint and it's been solved or have a pending complaint. So we can see one has been solved, one is pending. Okay, how many they've had, okay, their membership as well. If it was in a red color, kind of like back before, it's going to symbolize that they're checking out today. So as a DM, it's like, okay, this is my last opportunity to meet with this guest before they leave. Even if we've solved the issue, hey, how was everything in the stay? I know you had an issue, but, you know, hopefully we made up for that. You know, last opportunity to kind of do something before they leave. Okay. Then we see our lovely tag analysis. So, you know, what category did it fall under, which we see here. Okay, the red stuff's the pending. Okay, and we can see the quantity of complaints we're getting as well. How many have been created and how many have been solved. Okay. Nice.
Awesome.
That's all I've got for you guys.
Woo!
Yeah.
You guys can see up the top as well. Just worth noting, arrival